Hey guys, Scarlett Darkwood here. Hope everyone's had a great week. I want to talk to you about Mary Magdalene. And you're probably wondering, why are we talking about Mary Magdalene? And I'm not trying to do this from a Christian perspective at all. I'm doing it from a mystical perspective because I don't know whether many of you know this or have ever thought about it, but Christianity started out as a mystical tradition, not everything that we see in the accepted canon today. There are lost books of the Bible that didn't get included, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But Christianity started out as mystical, and Jesus was mystical. He didn't found Christianity. If you have any ugly comments, don't put them because I'll just delete them. Anyway, Christianity has a mystical tradition. And I want to focus on Mary Magdalene because she was one of the first apostles. The apostles knew it, the disciples knew this, Jesus loved her most of all, and they said it. And you may not get that in the modern canon or the accepted canon that we use, because long ago, when Constantine was emperor, the emperor in 325 AD, he got an ecumenical council together, a group of bishops together, and decided he wanted conformity and belief in what the canon was going to be. So they all got together and they said, well, we'll take this gospel, we'll take this gospel, now we don't want these gospels. So a lot of books were left out, and one of them was the Gospel of Mary. And so the Coptic priests of that time knew that they were going to be in trouble. They were going to lose these works if they didn't do something and try to hide them and protect them, because anything that wasn't in the canon was destroyed. And so apparently these scripts were buried in Egypt in a city of Nag Hammadi. It's called the Nag Hammadi Library. I'm not an expert in any of this, but some of the history of it just fascinates me. But they hid these in the deserts, and you've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls and Qumran. These jars of clay where all these scrolls were. In recent years, in our timeline, they have been discovered, they have been translated, and you can get the book called The Other Bible, and it will have those Gospels in them. It will have the Christian Apocrypha, the Jewish Pseudepigrapha, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which would be in the Gnostic Gospels, the Thunder Perfect Mind. You have all these books that you've probably not seen or heard of before, unless you knew this information and knew where you could get that book, the Other Bible, because you're not going to read it in the Christian Bible in the Old or New Testament as we have it today, unfortunately. And some of these Gospels, as I understand it, were even written after the apostle died. So, all kinds of things surrounding that. But at any rate, I want to focus on Mary Magdalene because she has her gospel that tells about seeing from the heart. We talk about seeing from the eyes, but she wants to talk about seeing from the heart, because that's how you truly see things for what they are. And it's basically shedding the ego and not getting so caught up in the emotions and trappings of the world. It's not getting upset and angry at everything that doesn't seem to go your way. It's shedding that need to feel fearful about things. It's shedding the need to feel like you have to argue and your point of view has to stand. It's just shedding a lot of things of the ego that keep us trapped in fear or keeps us trapped in anger while we're trying to navigate our way in the mundane world. And so Mary Magdalene goes about talking about aspects of shedding this ego that we have. And that's hard to do because, though we're, very, very human, there's a spiritual side. And, Jesus was able to perfect all of that. He was able to know where to focus his attention and where not to focus his attention. And a lot of us aren't able to do that very well. I'm not. But at any rate, so he set about teaching the disciples about that, and Mary Magdalene seemed to be the one who really got it, and maybe some of the others, but she really got it. And so her gospel talks about how to shed that ego. And the sad part about it is that there's parts of her gospel that have been just totally destroyed. There's parts of a gospel where she asked a question and Jesus gave the answer, and that answer is missing. It's something that would have made us more enlightened in today's world had we been able to get that information. So what is shared is basically what was left of the gospel. And I got this book, Mary Magdalene Revealed by Megan Watterson, and she talks about all of this. And she does it in a beautiful descriptive way. And I'll leave a link below, because if you haven't read this book, you really should, because it's just beautifully written, and it's a great reminder of what we can do to help perfect ourselves. So Mary teaches us that when we see with our heart, we know what is true, what is lasting, and what really is, and what's really important as we navigate the world in our human body. And she said there were 7 powers that kept us trapped and that kept us from being the illuminated beings that we're supposed to be. And I want to go through these 7 powers and what they are and describe them a little bit so that you can have a general idea of what it is she's trying to say. And I really still wish you all would get her book, Mary Magdalene Revealed, because it's definitely worth reading. And Megan Watterson, the author, went to seminary school. She didn't do it to lead a church, but she did it to understand religion. So the first power is darkness. And we call them powers because they're very powerful. Whether they're helpful or not, is a whole other thing. But these are powers that aren't helpful, but they are very powerful. So that first power is darkness, and that is a feeling depressed, feeling trapped, feeling gloomy, like nothing's ever going to get better again. And we have people like that who they tend to be Eeyores. They're not Tiggers. They don't have all this energy. They're Eeyores. Everything's bad. Everything's horrible. Things could be better, but they just don't see a way out. And then there unfortunately are people who are mentally ill and have depression and have to take medication to help change that brain chemistry. But for those of us who don't have a diagnosis of that, we still feel trapped sometimes and feeling like we're in the dark and we're never going to get out. So that first power, the darkness, is rising above that and getting out of that. It's feeling powerful and feeling that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that we do have support where we think we don't have it, and that not all is lost. So it's overcoming that power of darkness. The second power is desire. And desire is clinging. It's wanting something that you think you want, when really in all actuality it's probably something you don't need, or might be something that's not good for you. You've met people, and I do it too, we'll cling to something. We just won't let it go. We just hang on to it. And there are times that you kind of got to let that desire go, because it really does serve no purpose. Even though you think it does, it doesn't serve a purpose. And so there are times when you have to let go of things. You may have liked being with a certain person. They might have meant a lot to you, but sometimes there's a season for them in your life and you have to let them go. Death is one that really brings that home that way. You might have a desire for a certain type of job or a certain type of, a situation. And really, when it comes right down to it, you may need to maybe change a focus or do something else, or maybe that type of thing is not right for you. But it's just letting go of desire when it doesn't really serve us, and having the wisdom to know the difference. The third power is ignorance. And that is lack of awareness. It could be a lack of awareness of the world around you, the lack of awareness of what's going on. It's also lack of awareness of yourself. And that keeps you in darkness. And so basically you want to be aware of your environment. You want to be aware of situations. You want to take in all the information, and you want to weigh pros and cons. You want to take a deeper look into yourself and see where your truth is. What are you really cut out for? What is your personality type really? Who are you? And when you know that, you become more aware, and you're able to take the world information and sift out what you don't need and look at what really is truthful in all kinds of ways, and that it helps you make decisions that are better for you, might be better for others, and you don't tend to cling to something that you need, and you do lead yourself out of the darkness. So that's the other power. The other power is zeal for death. You're thinking, well, that's kind of crazy. Why would I want to, die? Or most of us try to preserve ourselves. Well, sometimes a zeal for death is making choices that aren't good for your body. I mean, I know I do this. Gluttony is one. Overeating. Maybe doing things that put yourself in danger. I want to say bungee jumping or skydiving. I don't know. Those are some examples. It's just doing things that aren't good for you physically, or doing things that could kill you. I mean, it can be psychological too, You keep doing things that just every little bit part of you just dies, even on an emotional level. So it's overcoming that and not putting yourself in danger that way. It's not putting yourself in a situation or in a series of thoughts where you keep beating yourself down, where you keep killing yourself, more or less, where you keep killing your own spirit. The other power is realm of the flesh. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, in that everything's about a lust for beauty, that everything you want something only that's pretty, only that's appearing an appearance of being pleasing, that it has to look a certain way, it has to be a certain way. And what you do is when you get, really attentive to just looks or just to the body itself, you begin to miss out on other qualities. I mean, there are people who are average looking who are very beautiful inwardly. And if you were to just really look at who would be a better person for you, it might be that person who's not quite as pretty or as good looking. When you get to know someone whose energy feels right and deep in your heart, you know that it is, you will see the beauty and you can love that person for what they are, instead of just everything being physical. I mean, I have some relatives who were that way, that if you didn't look a certain way or have a certain flair about you, they just tended to disregard you. But that's a dangerous power, is lusting after the flesh, and everything's only about the physical, and you totally disregard the spiritual. That is clinging to the flesh too much. That's a deadly power. The other one is foolish wisdom of the flesh. And you're thinking, what is that? Well, that's basically sloth, or not having any energy. It's allowing your body to tell you, I don't want to do that. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm just fine sitting here on the couch. Well, as I've gotten older, I think I'm giving way to wisdom of the flesh. But you got to push through that. Sometimes you need to get out and move. You need to find that vitality and become more energetic. Go get your spirit back. Find out some things that you enjoy doing. What can you do to help somebody else? Would working in the mission help? Would working with some churches for some food banks? Get up and just stop listening to your body when it says, I'm tired and I don't want to do this. Just diss that. You need to get out, you need to move, you need to be in the world a little bit, and you need to find out what you can do to help others. Don't give way to sloth. Sloth is a deadly sin. It's one of those deadly sins. That part, that's true. And sometimes when we give way to that, we just lose it. You don't become functional anymore, and that's not healthy at all, and it's not good for your spirit either. And the last power is the wisdom of the wrathful person. And I believe that's another deadly sin too. Anger, is that what that is? Yes, anger. So let's talk about anger. Anger can be really good sometimes, actually. Anger, or being angry at injustice, might motivate us just enough to go do something about it, to take a stand, go sign a petition, go talk to the powers that be to try to make a change. Sometimes anger that way is very positive. Where anger is not positive is when you hang on to it and you don't let it go, and you don't forgive, and you just simmer and you just stew. Sometimes with anger, people lash out. They'll kill people, they'll destroy things. All of that in turn destroys yourself. And that's the problem with that, is that there are certain things, if you're going to be angry, use it to motivate you to make a change. If you're angry about a law or some of the rules of society, go make a change. Get with a group that can help make a positive change. If you're angry that somebody has upset you or done an injustice to you, think of a way that you can positively talk to them and make that better. Or what can you do on a constructive level to relieve yourself of it? Or is it something you really need to spend your attention on? Some things, again, it's that ego. You're just hanging on to it and none of it really matters. You know, who cares what somebody thinks about you, or they disagree with you or agree with you? Doesn't matter. So that's the thing with the, the wisdom of the wrathful person. Use anger wisely. Let it go where it really doesn't matter, and be constructive with it if it can motivate a change or heal in some way. But don't let it cause you to stew in your own pot. So those are the 7 powers of Mary Magdalene. So what I hope you learn from this video and this very brief Cliff Notes version about the Gospel of Mary is that we can free ourselves from things that keep us mired down in anger and unhappiness and darkness and fear. This is where a lot of these mental health issues come from. I'm not saying every one of them. There is a chemical component to mental health, so I'm not dissing. But I'm talking about the worried well, that how we can get ourselves into a snit when we really don't have to. You can free yourself from it. You can start by becoming aware of it, by thinking of ways of how you're reacting to something. You can become more aware of yourself, what really matters to you, what doesn't. When is it good to let go of something? What doesn't serve you? What do you need to do more of to be better? So those are some things to think about, and some ways that you can become more aware and shake yourself free and not let your own mind cause you to live in fear. And to know that you always have resources out there. Even the cosmic intelligence or God or whatever you want to call that higher power is there to help. People on the mundane level can help. You can help. So I hope this has been a helpful video in some ways. Let me know what you think about it. If any of you have read Megan's book, let me know what you think about it. It's one of my favorites. Absolutely one of my favorites. So I hope to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video, and hope everyone has a great week.